One of the complicated things I think about a time like this is that there's just so many things to think about, so many things to consider, so many things to worry about. And I think that's one of the more painful parts of this process is how do we control our minds? How do we control our emotions when it's just such a roller coaster of everything? Well, I think the Bible is very clear about this, and that while there are many things, there is the one thing that we need to do. And if you take care of the one, all the other things fall into place. And I was out walking and asking God, what about this? Is there any help? And just as clearly as you can imagine, God just very clearly brought to my mind simply the story in Matthew 14 of Peter seeing Jesus walking on the water and getting out of the boat. And if Peter had continued to keep his eyes on Jesus, he would have been able to keep walking on the water. But he didn't. He took his eyes off of Jesus and looked down, got distracted, looked at other things, beginning to think, oh, such a horrible storm, right? But that's when he went down. And I think that's so true in our lives. If we keep our eyes on Jesus, in John chapter 3 or Numbers 21, there's that story about how Jesus portrayed himself as that snake being lifted up in the desert when all the Israelites, a couple thousand years before Jesus, were being bitten by this swarm of snakes and everybody was dying. The cure was to look at this bronze snake that had been lifted up in the middle of the camp on a pole. If you look at that snake, then you're not going to be poisoned by the venom. And Jesus said, see, that's me. If you look to me, you're not going to suffer the things of this world. You're going to be focused, and I will save you. And I think that's so true. If we just look at Jesus. When I first started pastoring, when I was just moved to Maine, I'd started this church in a dance hall. And one day a couple walked in, Ray and Esther. And I soon became very good friends. They're like grandparent figures to me. Such wonderful people. I soon found out that they had everything horrible happen in their lives. It was unbelievable. I'd never seen one couple that suffered so many different tragedies. But regardless, they had a beautiful spirit about themselves. And even when they're telling you about the tragedies, they were smiling and you didn't feel discouraged at all. And I asked Esther one time, so, well, what have you learned? Or why is it that you're able to deal with these things so easily? And Esther, she smiled, says, when I was a little girl, my mother told me, she said we'd had some problems in our church and I was upset with the pastor. And what my mother told me was just keep your eyes on Jesus and everything else works out. And she said, that was good advice then, and it's been good advice for all of my life. And I still remember that story, and I think it was good advice that her mother gave her. And it was good advice for that moment. It was a good advice for all of Esther's life. She's still living. And it's excellent advice for us today. Just keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep thinking about Jesus. It's amazing how when you put first things first, everything else falls into place. When we keep our eyes on Jesus, everything else works out. Watch how Jesus works in your heart. Watch how he changes your attitude about how you speak to others and how you understand how others speak to you and how you're able to overcome so many of the small details that could really drive you crazy. But instead, God puts them in proper perspective and he reminds you, keep your eyes on me. I'm taking care of everything. And I think that's God's message to you. It's God's message to me during this time for this day. God bless you guys.
You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I have made, and I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. My life laid down, I'm surrendered now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness